everybody's recording, right? You see the little like recordy thing on all your recording stuff?
Yes, I do.
Well, it's actually weird in QuickTime because it's a black box when you're recording.
Yeah, what's that all about? At least the waveforms move, though.
Well, it moves even when you're not recording.
Oh, does it? That's helpful.
You have to watch the time and you see that it's ticking up.
Got it. Yep. Welcome to Starside Lounge, episode 13. I'm Beorn, and with me, as always, is the venerable Xenos.
Hello.
Hey, Xenos. And we have a small crew tonight. Joining Xenos and I is community guest Breitzen. Hey, Breitzen.
Hello. 13 is a baker's dozen. That's exciting.
Yes, a baker's. I think you just came up with the show title.
Score.
Yeah. Is there a weapon in Destiny called Baker's Dozen? Because that needs to be a thing.
That does need to happen.
There's a lot of guns that have 13 bullets in the clip.
I feel like, yeah. I was thinking it felt like a rocket launcher name, but I think you're right. Like maybe a hand cannon with like 13 rounds.
Yeah, maybe it's exotic. Does something special on the 13th round.
I love it.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Let's get on that, Bungie. Okay. So, it's been a short while since our last show, and Xenos and I even tried to record episode 13 a while ago with was it the PC beta? Regular beta?
Yep.
PC beta. And Beorn went and screwed it all up, and the files weren't really usable for creating a podcast episode, so that's why I never...
Classic Beorn.
Yeah, classic Beorn. So, he's such a jerk. So that's why that didn't happen. So yeah, Destiny 2 has launched, and we've been playing it, and the community's gotten bored, and then they're unbored, and then there was a laser show, and there's a lot going on. So I was thinking we could start at the beginning and move forward. So Destiny 2 launched. Initial impressions, Breitzen?
I think it's a really, really good game. It's a great evolution from the original Destiny into something that's much more refined, and you can tell it just has that focus that the original didn't at launch.
Excellent. Xenos, how about your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it definitely feels like a sequel, which I think is definitely what they're aiming for, and I'm pretty happy with. A lot of people wanted like more of a slow evolution like you'd have with like a real MMO, but one thing I've always enjoyed about Bungie games is when they come out with a sequel, they don't just refine a couple things, they rework everything, and they definitely did that with Destiny 2. In most cases for good, a few cases, some feel a little bit off just because you're so used to the old system, but overall I'm pleasantly surprised with what they came up with.
Have either of you gone back to play Destiny 1 since D2 launched?
I haven't.
I have not either.
Yeah, me neither. That's interesting. I've sort of been curious about what it would feel like, but
I didn't go back and get my Jade Rabbit.
Oh, that's true. I did. I launched it to go back, talk to Xur, and buy the stupid gun. I didn't even fire it. I just got it in my inventory.
That's okay, because your first exotic in Destiny 2, Curse of Osiris, was Jade Rabbit.
I was going to get to that later, but yeah, you make an excellent point. Jade Rabbit. Oh, yeah.
You're lucky, sir.
I was very happy.
Very lucky.
From a legendary engram, nonetheless. It was spectacular, yeah. Xenos was there. I was kind of giddy. There was a lot of giggling.
That is an accurate description.
Yeah. No, Destiny 2 definitely feels like it's got more polish and like more of a cohesive whole than when D1 launched. Absolutely. The beginning part where everything from where Gaul kicks you off the cliff to moving through the city and just trying to like not die and the music and everything felt like it was a really well put together story. And then, sort of in classic Destiny fashion, as you got further along the story, things moved maybe a little too quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The glue wasn't quite there to tell the story that I was hoping would be there. But I will say there were some really epic moments, like the action, the scenery, the music, the audio. When you're on the what's it called? The
Almighty.
The Almighty. Thank you. Yeah, that mission on the Almighty. That's sort of like where it just picked up and went a whole extra degree higher. That was so much fun. The mechanic about being out in the sun. I had serious thoughts of marathon days, G4 sunbathing, and you have to go hide in the shadows. That was just spectacular.
And 2 vehicle sections.
Yeah, all those vehicle sections. That was beautiful.
I have a small beef to pick with the vehicle sections, but not that I don't appreciate them. I actually think they're very well made, but I felt like the vehicles were so light compared to even a Sparrow. I don't know. The tank specifically, not the
You mean the one that Holiday drops off for you?
Yeah, the one Holiday drops off in the arcology.
Yeah.
But
I sort of
the gameplay, and again the mission structure was actually, I thought, was really good. It was just how it handled felt toyish. It was like, this is like a thing made of paper mache.
It didn't feel like a Scorpion.
Yeah.
Right.
Which meant that you could drive it. So there is that.
That's true. You did get a little faster than the Scorpion ever topped out at.
Yeah. Well, and like cornering and stuff felt much better. Was it called the Dragon? Was it the Dragon tank? Is that right? It had a name.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't remember.
The Drake.
The Drake.
Yeah.
Drake. Yes.
Dragon themed.
Yes.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the Drake. My beef with that section of the mission was that the vehicles, there were so many points to pick up a brand new vehicle.
Yeah.
Little hand-holding. Yeah.
It was like way too much hand-holding. I want to hold on to the vehicle, and if I screw it up, I got to hoof it through that big mission all by myself,
Well, and I think that does bring us to like a real beef I had with Destiny 2 compared to Destiny 1, which is there was no difficulty option. So, like, that would have been fine if that was the normal difficulty, but like it would have been cool if they'd had a harder difficulty where maybe you only get 1 extra tank drop, and that's it.
Yeah, they make this big show about, Amanda's got to fly in and she's like, taking fire, and she has to get this tank to you. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you can have as many as you want. And it just didn't quite add up.
Yep.
Right. No, really though, overall super enjoyable. The Gaul storyline was interesting. I felt like he was a bad guy that I could understand his motivations a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The cutscenes with him and his counselor and the speaker I thought were great for storytelling, but it all sort of wrapped up too quickly. I fully expected Gaul to be part of the raid boss situation, and turned out that wasn't the thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, the even the collector's edition of Destiny 2 comes with a kind of a Cabal themed. It's actually more of a raid themed booklet, but Gaul is mentioned in there, and his backstory seemed really interesting. And then they only just like briefly touched on it in the game, and that was really disappointing. Is not quite the right word, but when 90% of his cutscenes were just him monologuing to the speaker. And while that's good for like conveying information, it's not always the most fun to watch. And when that's as much as you get, I felt like I would have liked a little bit, like you were saying, a little more, where once we beat him in the campaign, he became this bigger bad that we had to defeat in the raid.
Well, basically up until the point the Traveler like comes back alive, that's what I thought was going to happen.
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm. He becomes that big giant like flaming god in the sky, and I just thought, oh crap, we are gonna have to fight him as a raid boss, and I don't know what to do about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Traveler took him out for us, and I thought, well, that's convenient, but a little too much Deus Ex Machina, I guess.
I
I mean,
agree.
the Traveler is a Deus Ex Machina, so
Right, yeah, it's from the beginning, yeah, for good and bad. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think the theme that the campaign chose to talk about was interesting. Again, I don't think they went far enough with the whole idea of like, what does it mean to be chosen? They didn't ever really wrap up because they just had this ex machina of the Traveler coming in and being like, you kind of screwed up my plan, so I'm just gonna have to deal with it myself.
Yeah.
And then the game just ends, which, I mean, it's cool, and then we get to start the end game stuff, but the world has changed significantly from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, and I feel like what we're doing is just the exact same stuff that we were doing at the end of Destiny 1.
Yep. Sort of a trick with, I mean, the game design, right?
Oh,
like
definitely.
That's
They've backed themselves into that room, and they have to figure out how they're going to into that corner of the room and figuring out how do you tell that compelling story with a satisfying ending while keeping a live game ongoing.
Exactly. I sort of felt like they touched on a good solution with, well, not solution, but Oryx for the duration seemed to be pretty good. And I actually like where they're leading, just like they haven't, I guess they're pretty overt about it, but everything with Savathun in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
They've done everything except directly come out and say, yeah, this is going to be a expansion situation in the future.
Right.
Yep.
But for those who don't know, Savathun, well, go read the Books of Sorrow, but that's Oryx's sister and long lost, and she was the clever one, right?
Go read Ragashingo's backside, bite-sized backstory.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do what I first said. Not that. I apologize, Raga.
That's amazing. But yeah, no, bite-sized backstory for sure. Go check that out, because I think that's going to lead into a lot of lore that we're going to be seeing in the future with Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving forward, because we should have had an entire show on little bits of Destiny 2, so we're going to have to sort of move through and cover lots of stuff in smaller sequences. But destinations, environments, Xenos, what's your favorite place in Destiny 2 so far?
I kind of go back and forth. I really like Nessus a lot, and I think a lot of that has to do with the destination leader, the AI, of course.
Failsafe, yeah,
because she's by far
great.
the funnest of the four hosts, I guess you'd call them.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, all the destinations are gorgeous, and they all have different feels to them. It doesn't just feel like reskinned. They have very different feels. Yeah, I definitely think it's Nessus more than anything, though. I love Vex, and I love Fallen, and actually having them fight, which you didn't see a ton in Destiny 1. You definitely saw it, but it wasn't that common. It's fun, yeah.
I think House of Wolves was pretty much the only time you saw that in Destiny 1, right?
Yeah.
When they finally got to Venus. But yeah, I would agree.
Breitzen?
I think Nessus is my favorite easily. EDZ comes in at a close second, but the architecture on Nessus, just the Vex, that Vex architecture is very interesting to me, and it's huge. You have all kinds of different environments with all sorts of vehicles, and then the under like the you can get. I didn't figure it out until like a month ago, but you can get like under the map where you find Cade originally. You can get down there on patrol, and it's just expansive, and there's still enemies down there. There's just lots of little things to find and explore, and that's something that Titan and IO both, I think, really struggle with. But EDZ does a pretty good job as well, and but yeah, Nessus for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I really also enjoy the Nessus environment. EDZ's fun. I feel less interested in the architecture because it is more familiar and human, which is nice. You need a place like that. You need like a home base, and I love that it's so huge. That's great.
Yep.
My one thing My one thing with EDZ is I wish it would give you more reasons to go into the underground section, because there's a huge underground section of EDZ
Right, but
that you
nothing to
basically
do
see
down
like
there.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. You'll see it like once when you first do all the adventures and the lost sectors, but then there's really no reason to ever go down there again.
Yeah, yep. But yeah, Nessus is just gorgeous, and it's got a fun NPC to give you missions, and I'm still hearing new audio, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's large enough that you can if you dropped me down in the middle of Nessus right now, I don't think I'd be able to find my way around particularly well. I'm always referencing the map. I'm sort of using it as a crutch, but there's a lot going on there, and I hope we get to see more of it.
I do too.
As we go on.
I hope some of the future DLCs add on to the areas we already have.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
fantastic.
definitely like that they created a new area in Curse of Osiris, but I also liked that they added a couple areas in most of the past DLCs, and I hope that something comes back.
Agreed. Yeah.
Even in those past DLCs, even if they didn't necessarily add areas, they added things to do in
Right.
areas that already existed that maybe didn't have something before, which spiced up even just the traveling between two points on a map.
Yep.
I really wanted to like Io, but I really don't like Asher, and Io is just too small of a space for what it is. Although I feel like we'll have something to do with the Pyramidion eventually,
Maybe.
But yeah, it's just too small of a space. And same thing with Titan. Although in the arcology, right? The arcology is fantastic, but you can't get into most of it. Well, not about most of it, but there's a limit. You can only get so far when you're on patrol, and otherwise you have to go do the missions.
Well, and that's so crazy to me because it's such a small patrol space,
Right?
And I feel like all they had to do is open up those doors and put a couple public events inside the arcology, and it would be
the arcology does need to be a public space, I think.
It might be my favorite planet if it was for that, because the arcology is such a cool environment.
Mm-hmm.
Curious if we'll see any of that coming in the future. So, okay, Destiny 2 on PC. So we added a third platform. Breitzen, I believe you haven't played, correct?
I have not. I will have to defer to your judgment on things.
I think we'll make it quick, but it's great that we can play on PC. I have some, like my cousin, for instance, I've been trying to get him to have an Xbox for years. He used to play Halo with me, and then he said, no, I'm never getting another console. I'm a PC gamer. I was like, okay. So Destiny 2 comes out for PC, and he sends me a message and says, do you have it? Like, let's play. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I played a bit. I, for the life of me, cannot play with a keyboard and mouse, as it turns out. 15 years of controller first-person shooters has completely disabled my keyboard mouse abilities.
That'll do it.
Yeah, but so I just play with the Xbox controller, and it works great. It feels exactly like playing on the Xbox.
Well, I think that's the main thing. Is it's as far as a multi-platform game, it is the best PC version of a game I think I've ever played. It's the mouse and keyboard works really well. It doesn't feel like it's like adapted to mouse and keyboard. It feels like they started from scratch, which I know they did, but it feels like that. It feels perfect, like you'd expect a mouse and keyboard to feel. And then they didn't make the controller feel like it's just mapped to keyboard. So it's like they did the best of both worlds, which no PC game ever does. It's always leans one way or the other, where you need to play with a keyboard or you need to play with a controller to get the best experience. And they just knocked it out of the park, and it feels perfect with both.
Yep. Well, I don't know about perfect with both, because I can't use the keyboard mouse, but I do like the controller bits. And from the people who use the keyboard and mouse, I hear good things.
And I mean, obviously it looks amazing. I play on a 4K monitor, looks gorgeous. There's so many particle effects, the textures are better, everything's just incredible.
Yeah, I play on a 2013 iMac, booted into Windows mode, so I have acceptable frame rate.
How does that even
run? Better than you would expect.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's about all I have to say. I average around like 35 frames a second, which means it just runs at 30 most of the time.
I was gonna say, I think my IMAX 2013. It's a late 2013. So
Yeah,
you're
that's what I
telling
got.
me I could do it?
Probably.
Did you get the boosted graphics card, the 4 gig one?
Um,
Because there were 2 graphics cards or 2 options.
That's a good question. Probably not.
And I did get the bigger card. Makes a difference.
But, that's okay.
But
I don't like mouse and keyboard anyways, so stick with my Xbox.
And you'd have to start new characters anyway, which is still something that I just can't believe like we're having to put up with. But maybe someday.
Yeah, I'd play a lot more on PC if you could transfer your character between.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fantastic. So I was going to talk about Trials. We can probably skip it. I don't know if there's much to say, unless you guys have like anything particularly interesting to say.
I think we should talk a little bit about Crucible because I mean that's
all right. Well, so
different.
So then let's talk about So Destiny 2 Crucible, and we can integrate all the bits into that.
So I think the most fun I've had in Crucible was this last weekend.
With the lasers?
With laser tag.
How do I disconnect you from this phone call? This is...
No.
Did you really have a good time?
I actually really did. And I think it was because it came down to... It felt much more like Halo. Not in the speed of gameplay, but in the fact that everyone had the same... I knew what everyone had. Everyone was using the same gun. And it was a mastery of, that plus whatever your abilities are to win versus, oh, I haven't gotten a Uriel's gift, and so I'm just going to get wrecked.
Yeah.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. I'm
also not a hardcore PvPer. I'm a much more casual PvPer. And so when it's like the rules are just kind of thrown out and it's just screw it, go be goofy. I love that kind of stuff.
I had fun with it for like 2 games and then I was done. I just when people figured out that you could like shoot the ground and make the damage bubble go around the corner, so that if like you didn't even have to be remotely hitting anybody and still wipe out a whole team, like I couldn't handle that.
That's fair.
I honestly, I think it did point out like because I really like Destiny 2 Crucible. I think in a lot of ways it's an improvement in the things I wanted in Destiny 2 Crucible, because especially for like the more competitive modes, I wanted it to be more or less random, so that you kind of knew what to expect and knew what to do. And the 4 players with a little bit slower recharge times works out really well for that. But on the other hand, it was also fun in Destiny 1 when you were in the mood for it, that it could be crazy chaos and that you could have heavy all over the place and people using supers every 30 seconds. And I think that's a big part of the reason why a lot of people liked this last week of Prometheus Lens Crucible, because it was just chaotic. It was like you went in and you could die in 2 seconds, or you could do like was lucky enough to do in one game and get 15 kills in a row without dying. It's just like
I don't know how you did that. That is amazing.
Just so chaotic.
You ran out of ammo, right? That's what you said.
Yeah. I ran out of ammo.
That is wild.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I just think that I have much more fun in Destiny 2 Crucible when I'm a part of a team and we're communicating, whereas and I still had that same fun in Destiny 1. But in Destiny 1, if there was no one else on, I could still just go jump in a game and I could do well without communicating with my 5 other teammates. And I don't think that's nearly as catered to in Destiny 2. So if you're a solo player, I think it's just not quite as enjoyable this time around.
Yeah, I think you're right. I find myself waiting until I have a fire team. I occasionally try to jump in solo, and it doesn't really work.
See, I'd love it if quick play was more the faster recharge rates, that kind of stuff, and then
multiple supers per game instead of just one. Yeah.
Like everyone's gonna get 2, and if you're really, really good, you can get 3, and then the other mode, competitive, was more how it is now, which is great, and it's great for that'll be good when they finally get into esports. I assume they will. They'll try at some point.
Well, we have a custom game
such a hard,
right?
Right.
in
Yes, custom
January,
games are
February.
coming. So I think that's leading up to them probably trying to do some sort of championship series.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
But
cool. Anything else to add to the?
the Crucible bucket,
Yeah.
I feel like Trials is still. It doesn't feel any different to me in terms of I'm just gonna go in and get shot from really long ranges. It's not snipers now, but it's it's Midas or Nameless Midnights or Uriel's Gifts. So
Yep.
I've still just kind of stayed away from it.
Yeah.
I will say, the fact that there are 2 game modes now that alternate each week, I think that's fantastic. The survival version is a little bit more forgiving, but the countdown game mode is a ton of fun, and I like that it flip flops each week. I think that gives some variety to the game.
Yeah.
And it's different strategies. It changes how the play space works, each time you're on it. So I do appreciate that they did that.
Yeah. Something else real quick about Crucible in D2 compared to D1 with the removal of power level influence in any game type, I think makes it all kind of feel samey. I appreciated the difference that light levels had in Destiny 1 when you were playing Iron Banner or Trials. Maybe not Trials so much, but
Yeah.
in Iron Banner just was like, so it's Saladin talking to me instead of Shaxx, and there's nothing different. There's nothing special about it, because I think in Destiny 2 everything is so reward driven rather than activity driven, which I dislike more than I like. I like my rewards, but I also like a variety of things to do, and when it's like I could go play Iron Banner or I could play Quick Play and it's the same thing, like come on.
I almost feel like with the way Destiny 2 is built, that they should really make Iron Banner like its own mode. Like it should be some kind of different mode that you only play when Iron Banner's on.
Yeah, it doesn't have a differentiating factor.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to add to that, but I think you're absolutely right. I was surprised when Iron Banner dropped the power level. I liked that Trials went that way, even the playing field a bit.
Yeah, it wasn't really necessary.
No, but I was definitely surprised when Iron Banner dropped the light levels. So next, the big in-game challenge, the Leviathan raid. I think all 3 of us can agree was pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Didn't really know what to expect. Had lots of surprises and new content, and I don't even know really where to start. So I'm gonna see if Xenos has a favorite thing that he wants to talk about the Leviathan raid. And just for what it's worth, in case you haven't done it yet, we're talking spoilers here. So
I can't pick one thing. The entire experience was better than I was ever expecting, because it didn't just feel like they wanted to just make a new raid. They wanted to make an entirely new experience, because not only is it awesome encounters that they refined really well, I think better than any they did before, because there's not really any cheesy ways to do any of the encounters unless people are glitching, but they all just work really well. They flow really well. It rarely feels cheap, unless you go into Prestige. That's a whole other conversation. And then on top of that, just the underbelly. Like when we discovered the underbelly, it was like, holy crap!
That was so great.
So much time on this area that you're barely going to spend any time through it. Like 90% of the time, you're just going to run through it.
Yeah.
And yet, it's just as detailed as every other, if not more detailed in some parts. Then
I really appreciate with the underbelly how they incorporate. It's not something you can just do it after you've done the 3 main encounters before you hit Callus, but I like how they've taken it and said, you can use this to get from path A, point A to point B, rather than just going back through the hub. Yeah. And so I appreciate, that level of detail is nice, because when we run it, we do go through there every time because we want to go get the chest right away, and we don't want to have to wait until the very end. So it definitely was designed with that in mind, which is nice.
I think is like the single most obvious example for me of a great place in Destiny 2 that I wanted to explore and was feeling like wonder about. Was that first night when we had been raiding for I don't even know how many hours. We were all exhausted. We had finished 2 encounters at that point, and we were just hanging out in the outer space and talking, just sort of jumping around, exploring. And Xenos, you were dorking around with the levers down below and like accidentally triggered it. And we discovered that it could open up, and there were people from our fire team who had gone offline, and we sent them a message. We're like, come back, you gotta come back. And we ran around there for like another hour until we accidentally died, and wiped and reset it, and we couldn't get back in anymore. But like that hour of just like running around, being completely unsure of what the next corner held, and like, oh my gosh, like, this part has bad guys, and like this goes off to some other place, and it was just so expansive and awesome. And that was great. That was such a fun surprise that I love that they put that in there, and whoever at Bungie like pitched that idea and pushed it forward, did a great job, because from the player standpoint, I haven't had that in the Destiny game, and I can't remember, the last time it felt like quite that same way.
Yeah, I still think, just as I did with Destiny 1, I think the raid team is probably their strongest group of encounter designers. Props to them, man.
Well, I mean, they've got the advantage of they pretty much work on that the entire time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Smaller widget, but far more refined.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, they just knocked it out of the park. And I love that they were able to integrate the new raid content. We'll get to this later, but like the new raid content was an extension of this huge place. Makes me wonder what else there's potential for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the underbelly was a great surprise. And then, it was going back to the raid itself, the mechanics are a lot of fun, and I really appreciated that the challenge wasn't that they were just throwing wave after wave and oceans of enemies, like bullet sponge enemies at you, and sometimes the Templar fight in Vault of Glass was super challenging, and it felt like you're just getting completely overwhelmed by really tanky enemies while taking snipers are taking pot shots at you from.
Well, and it's literally the hardest encounter in the raid. Easily.
Oh yeah. The Leviathan doesn't really have that unless, as you said, you're on prestige mode.
Yeah,
which we'll get back to. But no, I loved that it was all about the choreography, right? I mean, the gauntlet encounter is all about moving to the right place, hitting your marks. Just it's like clockwork, and you're just making things happen on a regular. If you're on point, it's like you're just setting the beat to a music almost.
Yep.
Like it's your role, and there's something really satisfying about getting really good at that as a team, and just knocking that out of the park. And then same thing for dogs, just in a completely different way. The garden, the pleasure gardens. I really enjoy that those encounters are set up so that it's about being smart about the fight and finding the best way to work as a group to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's something I liked about in King's Fall. The totems encounter felt like that to me as well, because there were a lot of enemies, but you generally didn't get completely overrun, and everyone had to move. You were doing the weaving pattern, right? And to me, this entire raid sort of feels that way, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I liked how it felt different from any of the other raids, which was something I was really worried about. In that I thought, okay, are we, how do you keep these ideas fresh? And when you don't have the that complexity that you can have in something like WoW, because you're on a mouse and keyboard, and you have a lot more characters on screen. You've got 6 people in first person with guns. How do you keep that fresh?
Yeah,
and I've just been impressed that they keep doing it.
Agreed.
absolutely.
And then the finale that it turns out that you're in the middle of the boss fight shooting this guy, and then all of a sudden his face falls off and he's a giant robot, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
That was
then
a
you
great
go into
moment.
the final room.
Yeah, you finally knock him down, and then it turns out there's like hundreds more of them waiting.
This is very clever of them.
That was super clever. And then it's they've made it part of the game, the in-game lore, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if in the I assume based on the UI, and maybe we can talk about this later. I don't know. In after the raid layer. So in the UI, there's the raid layer, the raid, and then there's a blank space on the right.
Yep.
What looks like another raid layer, probably in DLC 2.
They confirmed that DLC 2 will have a raid layer.
Perfect. I wonder if we'll fight the actual Callus in that, or if it will just Callus will forever be a figure that's out there in the ether. We never see.
It's interesting because lore-wise, they pull a nice trick on you. Once again, spoilers. That it's on the Leviathan. You start by fighting Cabal, and then, just kidding, the boss's effects in the raid layer. So, are they going to do the same thing in DLC 2? Whatever enemies we're fighting, are we going to find that enemy there? Or are they going to finish up the Callus story?
That's a good point. Because we think that'll probably be... Will it be Fallen again?
That's what I would think.
Makes
based
sense
on
to me.
On the art, the one piece of art they released.
Right.
Destiny
1, Rasputin had to do with Fallen. And I think Bray, what's her name? Supposedly the hunter who's on the cover art for DLC 2.
Everybody's pretty sure it's Bray.
Bray, she had something to do with Twilight Gap, right?
I don't remember anymore.
Raga, check that info.
Paging Raga Shingo, the official DBO Cryptarch.
Yeah.
Anna Bray is her name.
Anna, that's right. Yeah.
And yes, she was present at the Battle of Twilight Gap.
I know things.
Nicely done.
I try.
So, I feel like now that I brought up Raga Shingo, or I guess Breitzen did, I'm going to make a quick plug because I'm going to try to get this episode out soon. It's currently the evening of December 12th, and on December 15th, submissions are due for the fan fiction contest that Raga is hosting with some pretty sweet loot. We got this first round is the prompt is to write a story about your guardian's origin, about the first time your ghost found your guardian. And I think there's a lot of potential out there. It's sort of fun. I hadn't really thought about this before, and now I'm trying to think of a story to write, and there's like too many directions to go.
I love that it's an opportunity for us to kind of create our own beginning. We all, those of us who are in Destiny 1 experience the Cosmodrome version of things, but it obviously doesn't make sense for us all in the canon to have done that. So it's kind of fun to look at where did my guardian come from, and what did they experience when my ghost found them?
Yeah, it's a fun idea. So yeah, there's a ghost plushie to win.
Ooh,
or
that sweet loot.
Destiny 1 exotic weapons poster. Personally, I'd go for the plushie, but hey.
I'd go for the poster.
I think I'd go for the poster too. Although I have too many posters currently. I have like 3 that aren't hung up because there's no wall space.
See? That's why you need the plushie.
Maybe the plushie would be better.
Yeah. But yeah, so submissions are due on December 15th, and I highly encourage everyone to go out and try to write something. I jokingly suggested to Mac Addict that he should write a haiku, and so he did. He wrote like a whole series of haiku, and it was awesome. And
it's actually pretty good, yeah.
I was like, it was sweet. Nice job. So whatever you have, put it out there and just contribute. I think there's some potential to have some really cool stories built up, through this process. He's got 9 or 10 rounds of this, I think, planned. So there's definitely some opportunity out there.
Well, when Raga does something, he doesn't half-ass it.
That's true. I don't know if we want to really touch on it too much, but the salt mines of the internet have been prolific the last few weeks in regard to Destiny 2 and things Bungie has or may not have, or who knows, done. I've not really been keeping like close tabs on any of it because I generally find the crankiness frustrating.
Yeah, same.
But I don't know if you guys have anything to add. I just think they're all crazy because I'm really enjoying Destiny 2. I think there's plenty of stuff to do. I know there's a lot more coming, but I'm curious what you guys
honestly, all I have to think about it is I paid $80 for these 2 experiences, and it's totally worth that amount of money. I'm not paying a monthly fee. I'm not expecting them to vastly change the game or improve the game every month, and I just don't know how anybody could expect that to happen that quickly or to have that much more content that quickly. It's just I don't understand it. It's like if you're disappointed with it, come back in a year. I'm sure Destiny 2 is going to be a lot bigger, just like it was after the Taken King came out, and maybe you'll like it better. But I don't get the point of heaping mountains of salt onto the internet when they're already aware of the things that people don't like about the game. It's people have made it blatantly obvious over the last 2 months.
Yeah, I wish there was a. I think first off, the more mainstream something is, the more salt exists in a community, and as Destiny 2 is now on 3 platforms and is much more mainstream, I think, than Destiny 1. I think Destiny 1 became popular over time, but we were all hardcore because we had been there from the beginning. It had salt, but not to the degree that we see for D2, and I think that's just one, it's mainstream, and two, it's whether we like it or not, it appears to be an effective way to get the developers to change things.
Yeah.
I just wish we had a better way of like them telling us, "Hey, sorry, we're ignoring Reddit. That's just not where we're going for community feedback. If you want to have a positive discussion about it, like do that on our forums or something like that." But I don't know how you defeat the salt. I think you just ignore it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you have to do.
Yep. I will say I think that they are reacting quickly to the things that need to be fixed. Soonest. This whole business with the launch of the new DLC, putting the prestige raid, and the Nightfall and such behind the paywall, locking off Trials of Osiris, all that was kind of a big surprise. And I do think that was not fully thought through. However, they are, as quickly as they can, adjusting and going back on some of those decisions appropriately. So
they're communicating so well. As to go along with that, they're communicating really well in that, it's not just Deej writing a blog post. It's Luke on Twitter or, Mark or Chris that say something, and it's that leadership. I think a lot of times in Destiny 1, we get Deej was the ear to the community, and so he heard everything and he responded. But for some of those higher level things, he can respond, but that doesn't, how does that translate from a community to, we don't know that, Jason or whomever the game designer is at the top is listening or cares.
Yeah.
And when you see Luke put out, a tweet about something, that that's getting through to him. And I really appreciate that, on top of what Deej does really well, and Cosmo, in communicating with the community via the written blogs that go into more detail than what Luke or Mark would really want to.
Yeah, or what you can fit into a tweet. But
right.
Yeah, I don't really have any gripes, I think, with how things are being handled.
I do agree with them, and they've already said that they're going to do this, that they need to be a little bit more open about what they're going to do. I mean, I think that even now the negative criticism they're getting about Curse of Osiris is because they kind of held it close to their chest. And so a lot of people were expecting more out of Curse of Osiris than I think was reasonable. But if they'd been more clear about what's coming, people might not have been as disappointed. But it's a hard line to toe.
Yeah. Well, what game was it, like 2 years ago? I want to say it was like 2 years ago. That
I know what you're talking about.
that was like, here, buy this DLC. We're not going to tell you what's in it. And there was huge backlash. No. It was huge backlash. I don't know what that one is. I mean, essentially, that's what they've done with Osiris and whatever the next one's going to be, DLC 2. I mean, we don't know. Now we do, because they've started to communicate more. Like Xenos, you said earlier, with a new raid lair is confirmed for DLC 2. But, we don't know. We know from the past, and we're putting those expectations on what we think we're going to get. So I think if they communicate well in advance, hey, this is what you're getting in terms of not specifics, but like you're getting a story and you're getting strikes, and just to be somewhat more clear will help.
Yeah, I agree.
What's interesting to me is this isn't the first time that we've had Bungie get themselves in trouble for not communicating stuff, and then they come out, they fix it, they communicate for a while, and then after a while, maybe it's like between major releases, they go back to they being quiet and cryptic, which
that's so a part of their DNA, though, their history, that I think that's just, it's definitely it's an uphill battle for them as an internally as a studio, is how do we communicate because you don't want to spoil everything. I don't want to know everything. No, I love to be surprised. But you do have to have a level of trust there.
Right. And I think that's the thing, right? All three of us, right? I think if Bungie were to say, okay, we have this new expansion, we think it's great. It's $20 and we're not telling you anything about it. Go buy it. Like you said, right? Like
I would love it.
Personally. I would buy it. I would think that'd be fantastic, because I believe that they would put the same amount of effort into something like that as they have with previous expansions.
Yeah.
But I think most consumers probably wouldn't feel that way. And I'm sure Activision would not be so into the idea of, having small sales up front and then potentially growing them large later on, just based on word of mouth and reviews. Like,
I think that goes into, because what they haven't figured out is what the movie industry has figured out, which is the most people want to know as much upfront as possible going into an experience, which is why trailers for movies have become to the point where you see like half the movie, or at least pieces of half the movie, half the scenes in the movie, before you go to see the movie. And Bungie doesn't want to do that with their games, but the truth is that's kind of what people want. I don't want it. I don't want it for movies either, but for
apparently
whatever reason,
other people do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm feeling like I'm in the minority with that kind of thinking.
Yeah, me as well.
Curious. So we've been bouncing around it, but so Curse of Osiris just launched last week. I've been having a great time, and there's a whole lot of new stuff in there that we are still discovering. Every time I'm running a heroic adventure, like new audio lines are happening, or it ends up in a completely different place than the last two times I ran it.
Yeah.
I'm having a ball with it. I have one major gripe, and that is it's called Curse of Osiris, but I'm not sure what the curse is. I was talking to Xenos about this earlier, and I feel like it's not like somebody.
Not a good explanation.
No, it's not like somebody made him stay in the Infinite Forest for a huge amount of time, and he's stuck there without a way to get out. No, he's doing it to himself.
Yeah,
it's I think it's definitely a self-induced curse. Induced might not be the right word.
Yeah, and that was kind of odd. I guess it mostly goes with like the Egyptian theme of Osiris, and then you need like the Curse of the Mummy. I don't know. It was bizarre.
I bet you really they were like, Well, the perfect name would be the Trials of Osiris, but we already used that.
Probably.
Yeah.
And nobody would have bought it.
No. I have to pay $20 for a PvP mode that was
We thought it
in
was
Destiny
salty now.
1.
Yeah. So, but no, how are you guys? Like, Breitzen, what's your read on Curse of Osiris?
Overall, as an experience, I love it. It has a lot of the same problems that I think Destiny 2 has for me personally, which is the story is a little weak, and it doesn't really have a satisfying conclusion. But other than that, like, in the Infinite Forest it's okay. I wish it had been more of like a end game Prison of Elders thing, but that's because we all want more in-game content.
Yeah.
But like really like Mercury. It's small, but there's still plenty to do between the heroic strikes or the heroic adventures, and then the new strikes, the missions were all really really well done.
The public
And
event is a ton of fun.
the public event is a ton of fun. I do wish that there was more than just the one public event on Mercury.
Yeah. Even if it was just changes to
Yeah.
the one that was
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah, a variant on it. But overall, as a $20 package, totally worth it.
Cool.
I haven't even got any of the forged weapons yet. The Vex themed guns. Yeah, real life stuff came up, so I just, that and the raid layer.
And I mean, the raid layer alone, I think, is worth more than half the price of the DLC.
Oh, for sure.
It is some of the coolest environments in the entire game, and that end boss fight is super tough, but super fun and super interesting.
It's brutal but rewarding.
Yep.
Yeah. So for those listening, Xenos, Breitzen, and I were all on a blind raid fire team for the raid layer all at the same time. So our experience is going to be identical. But yeah, that was a ridiculous amount of fun. Love the environment. I love that we had the environment puzzles early on. There was lots of jumping into the water, and I should spoiler alert. I'm gonna splice that in before we start talking about this.
It's probably a good idea.
So yeah. But yeah, I love that there were the environment puzzles, and it was ridiculous fun to walk into that giant tunnel and we're like, this looks like the inside of like a 007 movie. Like it's like a gun barrel.
It's like
or
a
something,
barrel.
But that doesn't make sense. But let's go see what's at the end of it. And sure
Boom.
enough.
Well, then one of us made a joke that we were going to get fired off into space. Oh crap!
Like 2 seconds before it happened.
That was fantastic.
So good. Yeah. Really fun environment to be in, and I liked that they had the link with the first raid, right? Like the first raid, you're on this giant world-eating ship, and the entire purpose of the raid layer is something's wrong down in the belly of the beast, and Callus wants you to go fix it. Because that's kind of what we are right now. We're just running errands for Callus because we get loot for it.
We're just puppets.
Yeah, we really are, and it's kind of fantastic.
Well, and the fake out ending was pretty good too.
Oh, that was great. Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, but then it turns out the Vex mind in the middle of Nessus has put up a giant shield and is like gumming up the engine works for the ship, and so you got to go kill it. And once you do, the shield goes away, and you're gonna get sucked off into the, the combine, and he saves you. It was great. I think it was well integrated into the existing structure of the raids, the raid area that we know, but it was in itself completely unique.
Yeah,
and just fun to be in.
Agreed.
Yeah,
you can definitely tell that it's something that they thought about. I mean, it's not like they released Destiny 2 and we're like, crap, we don't have time to make another raid. How can we shoehorn this in? This was something that they thought about when they were early in development on Destiny 2, and it was like, okay, so we're gonna do a raid once a year for the big expansions and main releases. What can we do in the meantime to satisfy that in-game hunger that our players are gonna have? And I love how integrated it is, lore-wise, location-wise. It just really fits, and it makes the universe a little more full.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, so do you guys have any thoughts about the boss fight, the strategies, what our group did that you see other groups doing or not doing, anything like that?
I don't think we've fully figured out what the best way to do it is yet.
No, we have not.
No. For
we have
the
not
record,
optimized it at all.
Barely finished. We squeaked by the slimmest of margins. It was we were at full enrage timer and things were going really, really haywire when it finished.
Ooh.
I was down to the point where I was gonna just try to punch him in the face because I was out of ammo
Yeah.
and you couldn't see his health, and I was like, "That's all I got." So I ran up right up next to him, and then he did like an AOE attack and killed me as he died.
That's right. The rest of us were firing our auto rifles at him.
Yeah, I was out. So
I don't think we even had we didn't have the buff at that point. It had gone away,
No.
so
No,
we
it
weren't
was
even
gone.
doing the exaggerated damage. We were just
yeah, we were just
poking away at 100 hit points per auto rifle bullet.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I will say the final mechanic was like I felt like it was harder for us to figure out. We were granted we were a couple hours in. It was really late at night, and so we weren't like on our A game. But we
There
were
weren't
just
any
not,
hints though.
There weren't any hints. Is what you said?
Yeah, there weren't any hints.
Right. So it wasn't like elsewhere in the raid that we had seen, like, okay, there's a shield wall and it goes from void to solar to arc and then turns off. Like it didn't there wasn't a cycle that we could cue into and say, oh, I've seen this somewhere else. Maybe it's happening here in the encounter. And so instead we were trying to do pattern recognition while trying to stay alive while ridiculous numbers of harpies were trying to murder all of us. And for some reason that night it just wasn't clicking. Like we just did not see the pattern. And it wasn't until afterward when we all decided like, okay, obviously we're missing something. Let's look it up online. And sure enough, it's like, oh, hey, look at that. That could have been useful for us to know.
Yep.
Yeah, I felt like some way Bungie could have telegraphed that aspect of it.
Or maybe we're just dumb.
Or maybe we're just totally dumb and we're the only fire team who never saw it, which is totally possible.
Very possible.
But no, that was great. I liked that everybody had to communicate, and it was a really big encounter space. I was surprised with how little I fell off into the void. That happened almost twice, I think. I
don't remember our team falling
off
off much at all. Yeah.
There's not as many holes as you think there are.
Right, because there's a lot of little ledges and platforms down below to catch you.
Yeah. We also didn't have Cloud or Kermit, so
We love you, Cloud. We love you, Kermit.
We're an hour into this podcast. They've fallen asleep by now. I love you too. I love you too so much. Don't hate me. I'm never getting invited back, am I?
I don't know. It depends.
Hey, you didn't defend me and Beorn.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I really enjoyed the boss fight, and I'm looking forward to us going back in and just trying to get better and better at it. We have definitely a lot of optimizing to do, but from an encounter standpoint, I feel like it was really well put together.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's reminiscent in terms of like difficulty to the Axis, the Axis encounter in terms of like that's very complex with lots of moving parts,
and it's very chaotic.
And this captured that really well, more so than Oryx or Atheon did, or even Crota did. So I like that because it went from something that was very like we're spoilers in already. So light combat with the puzzle sections, and even the combat sections, kind of after those puzzle sections, were still fairly light. To something that was very mechanically difficult with lots of ads, and so I like that a lot. It was a good juxtaposition.
Yeah. Well, I guess we never came back to it, but we were going to talk about the Prestige raid, and it sounds like there's going to be a Prestige raid Lair, which I'm really not looking forward to at this point.
No.
Because I think, Xenos, you and I both agree that the Prestige mode was like 5% too difficult.
Yep.
Like if they had just shaved a little bit off the top of how crazy some of those fights are, baths especially. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, I have yet to complete the Prestige raid. We were all fully lit up. I don't know. We
power
full,
level, full
full
power
light
level.
power, yeah. And we just like couldn't swing it.
It's rough. It's super rough.
It definitely feels like it's designed for the people who stream this game every day.
Yeah.
Not for even the people who play every day, but maybe aren't that hardcore. It's just a little too difficult.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if. So now that they've dropped the light level on it, back down to 300, I think that's going to be the differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are, if I don't know what the damage scale looks like if you're 30 light higher than the target, but if that makes all the difference, then I think it'll be still a challenge, but a lot more fun. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to going back in at this point, and finishing my. Is it Acrius? The shotgun?
Yes,
yeah,
Legend of Acrius.
Yeah. Finish my Legend of Acrius.
I had that last step for so long.
I know.
Oh, hey, remember when you guys said you were going to help me with that? Oh, wait, you never did, because you never said you were going to.
What part are you on?
I still haven't even gotten the dang thing to begin with.
How do you
still
not
need to do the
have
strike.
to begin with?
I need to do the strike.
The horrible strike.
Yeah. The horrible strike. Exactly. That's what you said when I asked you about it. And
notice a lack of promising whenever you bring it up. It's because that's how much we hate that strike.
That strike was awful.
It's so annoying.
Hey, we'll be over leveled here soon enough.
I was gonna say, with a new light level, I might be willing to go in and give it a shot for sure.
Yeah. Just wait till we get to like 330, 335.
Yeah.
If anyone listening wants to carry a poor soul through, you know where to find me.
Yeah. Somebody needs to be Breitzen Huckleberry.
I thought it was you, Beorn. I thought it would be you.
Yeah.
No, clearly not.
So back to the new stuff in Curse of Osiris. I don't know, Breitzen, if you have a 4K television or anything, or a Xbox One X.
No,
but
not yet. Yet being the key word.
Yes, someday, soon. Highly recommended. Xenos.
Yes.
In one word, your thoughts on 4K HDR Destiny 2 on Xbox?
Gorgeous. And I don't know how there could be a different word.
I was going to use glorious. So
gloriously gorgeous.
Yeah,
Very
glorious.
nice.
GG.
I literally, and we both talked about it. There's like the room you get to when you're in the past on Mercury with the reflective water, and you can see the sky through a hole in the background. And I literally just like stopped, like
And there's
immediately.
the columns that have the light grid on them, like the structure of the room has that room is just amazing. I want to make wallpapers of that room.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
It's just fantastic. I have been without a television for a year and a half now. And so finally just recently got a new like 4K OLED HDR, and Planet Earth 2 is amazing and Destiny 2 is amazing. And that's kind of as far as I've gotten on it, to be honest. But there's just something.
What's Planet Earth 2's end game like? Because I want to make sure before I invest the time that it's worth my.
It's
There
David
is no endgame,
Attenborough.
unfortunately.
No.
Yeah. No, so it's obviously Bungie has done like a ton of work in the back end with the just in the like creation of the environments and how they've done the lighting and how they've built the rendering engine to handle all of this, because it's pretty freaking seamless. I've been looking for weird graphical glitches, things that might be out of sorts when you're in HDR mode, just because it's not as common, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fairly uncommon, I think, at this point still, for people to be driving HDR, much less from a brand new console. And it's I can't find anything. The game runs flawlessly and looks fantastic. So I'm sold. Like I wasn't sure about it. I was kind of like, this could be silly, but no, it's absolutely worth it.
I'm very much looking forward to it in the next year.
Yeah. I recommend it for sure. Music. One of you wanted to talk about music.
I just wanted to bring it up because Curse of Osiris kind of feels like the first time they've stepped away from, like, far away from the classic Destiny sound, because they've really put in those like Egyptian sounds into the music, and I love it. And I think I hope that they do that in the future with DLC, because I don't think we really got like really different music in Destiny 1 until like the Taken King is kind of the first time, and it had that like very hive heavy feel. So I hope this is the way it continues. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, but I'm a fan, and I hope they keep it up.
I don't know. This is one of I don't recall Crota's End or House of Wolves, their soundtracks being any different than like vanilla Destiny.
Well,
you're right.
Yeah. Crota's End, the raid music.
Sure. Yeah. But like with Taken King and Rise of Iron, they had very unique soundtracks, and Destiny 2 vanilla was a very good, again, just kind of a refinement of what I thought Destiny 1 was. There were some like the Journey track with the string quartet. That was amazing,
fantastic.
And I felt like I want to go back and replay and have more intently listen to the music, but it didn't, like, what stood out to me was this sounds like Middle Eastern, right? This sounds like Egyptian, but not in like a sci-fi cool way, in more of like it's different to be different, not like it's different because, well, I don't know if I'm describing that well, but it felt like the music was based around the guardian of Osiris, and much less around the Vex, the enemy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think in the past we've had, I guess, Rise of Iron was a little more like that too, but I didn't feel like it was. I felt like you could have put any enemy in there; it wouldn't have mattered. You could have been fighting the Fallen versus the Vex, and it wouldn't have been any different. But
you're definitely right. But I think the reason why I liked it is because I think they've leaned on those themes for too long DLCs at this point.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
So it's like, I actually kind of, in Destiny 2, even though there were some parts that were very cool soundtrack, the parts that leaned back on the themes of the enemies we already know, I don't even remember them. Like, they just kind of like flow past me. But as soon as Osiris started playing, or I started playing Osiris, the music immediately stuck out to me because they did do something new. And that's what I want. Because I mean, even the Halo games did a better job of it than I think Destiny's done so far, because you got some really different music in the sequels than you did in the first game. And so I hope they continue that. Yes, they should have some things that reference back to what we love about Destiny, but I want them to be encouraged to keep doing new themes and new ideas instead of just leaning back on the same themes.
Didn't they? I'm trying to remember. There was a podcast where they interviewed Mike Salvatore. And,
There was.
Yeah, and they talked a bit about this actually and how they were looking to I got the sense that was their goal. They're trying to do that with Destiny 2 is sort of harken back to some of the, like the Guardian theme, but not be bound by it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's what we're seeing, and hopefully, they continue to put some good music together. I haven't really consciously noticed the music in Curse of Osiris yet, but I've enjoyed what I've heard.
Yeah, it was never so distracting or bad, and I wouldn't even describe it as bad. Just because it's not my personal preference doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah, but I like how you said that, Beorn, where it didn't stand out. It wasn't like in Rise of Iron, and maybe that's because it was a much shorter time with that music. The campaign was very short compared to, when I think back, Taken King and Rise of Iron, which makes sense because those are expansions, not DLCs. I get that. So yeah, maybe I just needed some more time for it to grow on me.
We'll check back in with you in a few months.
Okay.
we'll add your reaction onto the show. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. We're running almost an hour and a half. But speaking of new music and opportunities for new music, we've got The Dawning right around the corner. I sort of expected it to drop today. I'm surprised that it didn't. And what do you guys think? Are we going to get SRL? Are we going to get missions? Like, what do you think?
Please,
we're gonna
SRL. Please.
Yeah, I really want SRL. I mean, the problem is I really want our SRL to come back more than just once a year. So I almost hope we get missions and then we get SRL as like a rotating thing. But I have a feeling it'll be our SRL.
Would be the preferred thing.
And I'm dang excited. I really enjoyed The Dawning, and I'm just looking forward to another reason to get back in and play with my friends.
Yeah, I'm really I like the idea of The Dawning, and I like how they executed it. Was it last year? How many years have we had The Dawning now?
Have we had it 2 full years?
I think we only had it 1 year, didn't we?
Did we just have it 1 year?
I was thinking it was just 1 year. Yeah.
Because I believe the previous year we had SRL.
Right.
It wasn't called The Dawning.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah. They gave us that emblem, but no like event, and we're like, wait a second.
Yeah. So I really like the concept of it. I liked how it felt, and sort of a celebration of the winter solstice, and like it felt really cool. So the start of a new year, and it had some fun music that went along with it. So I'm hoping that any day now it's going to drop, and we'll get to play some of that extra new content.
Mm-hmm.
On top of all the stuff that we're still exploring in Osiris.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when they drop it, just based on, we have faction rallies that are next week, and then Iron Banner supposedly the week after that. So do they wait, or do they release it alongside of a live event?
Yeah, they had said mid-December, so I'm thinking it's got to be next week.
It's got to be then, yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah, I sort of expect it to run 2 weeks though, so it'll probably incorporate Iron Banner as well.
Yeah.
Well, if it's like last year's ran 4 weeks. I'm hoping
Was it really?
That's how long it lasts.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be really nice. Cool. All right. Well, I know that we have to wrap up. We have a date with Argos. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Argos tonight.
We had a date with Argos, and we know we gotta break before then. So, thank you everybody for listening. And Kermit, Claude, we apologize again. Love you guys. And
my bad.
We will. Oh, and Breitzen, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you on and just hear your thoughts, and always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Xenos, for helping me put this together. And the rest of you, we'll see you Starside. you. Awesome music. Yeah. Oh, I should probably mention, I don't think I've ever said our music was composed and put together by Master Biggie, and we haven't really heard much of him, lately.
In a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, but he's put together some really fantastic stuff that I really appreciate that we have that content to put on the podcast, and it's all unique, custom for DBO. That's pretty great. So thanks, Biggie.
Thanks, Biggie. Bum bum.
Yeah. So
I just need to remember not to get too excited.
If you knock over the microphone, it makes a really loud crashing sound. I'm going to put that in the show for sure.
Oh, no. Oh, dear. That's not good at all.
Watch. I'm going to be the one who knocks something over.